If you're still waiting on proof that this Iowa basketball team can be something different this season, you just got it. In Bloomington, the Hawkeyes didn't just win a road game, they earned their first Quad 1 win of the year at Indiana in Assembly Hall against a desperate Indiana team. We break it down next.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast here on the Locked On Network, now number one for sports podcasts. I've been covering the Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio here in the great state of Iowa, including currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network. You can hear me each weekday from noon to 2 talking the world of sports on the Sports Network, including stations in Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, the Quad Cities, and Sioux City. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff wraps up, and FanDuel is the best place to get into the action. Visit FanDuel.com and get your college football playoff profit boosts every game day. We will take a look to tomorrow when the action continues for Iowa basketball, though on the women's side, as the Iowa women welcome in Michigan State. Should be another good affair over there at Carver Hawkeye Arena. But a lot to talk here today about this Iowa win against Indiana, the dominating performance that they had, and what's ahead for this Iowa basketball team. We talked about this slate of games that they had, what it's going to look like going forward. But this one definitely makes things feel a whole lot better from where we were this last week and a half as we get into what we saw at Assembly Hall. 74-57, the final in this one. Iowa gets the win and ends that 3-game losing streak. As talked about, first time in over a decade that Coach McCollum had gone through a 3-game losing streak. It was stretches of domination out of this Iowa basketball team. They raced out to an early lead, and any time that Indiana had a response, Iowa battled right back. Jason Benetti, who is absolutely tremendous on the broadcast, he was having a lot of fun as these two teams, they're in the middle of the first half. Towards the back end of it, we're going back and forth. The 15 consecutive makes by both teams in that one. But you look at that, during that stretch, Indiana hit 9 shots in a row. Outside of those 9 shots, they go 11 of 41. No, 43. 11 of 43 from the field in the ball game. A great defensive effort out of this Iowa basketball team. The stalwarts at the top. And as you look through this game, and we talked about getting off to that good start, how important that was going to be for this squad to get off to that good start after they had fallen behind so many times here early on. We saw against Purdue, much better here, and the same thing. But most importantly, look, we looked at Bennett Stirtz, preseason All-American, potential first-round NBA draft pick, and what we've seen this last week and a half, we anticipated we were going to see more. And in this one, we saw more. I think we saw the guy that we anticipated that we were going to see throughout the course of this year. And with Bennett Stirtz and the way that he played, it was under control, looking for spots, not forcing three-pointers, much more involved. But what I love more than anything, you saw it right away, is he took the ball to the rim. Teams are going to overplay him. Teams are going to come up, and he's going to have opportunities as he hit one of those crazy one-legged threes in the second half of this one. There's going to be chances there. That was absolutely huge, though, getting Bennett Stirtz back to the guy. Absolutely, he can be in control. 5 assists against just 2 turnovers. He goes 3 of 5 from the three-point line. Not the 9 a game he was averaging during the 3-game losing streak. No, he did it in part of the offense. And how about this? Got to the free throw line 11 times, goes 10 of 11 at the stripe. Him, along with Tavion Banks, who finishes 9 of 9 at the free throw line. Those two guys combined for 53. Indiana as a team scored 57. Yet, even with those two great performances, and they were tremendous out of both Banks and Sturz. And it wasn't just the scoring aspect for both of those guys. Banks, what you saw from him, his ability to get an extra shot, couple offensive rebounds in there, finishes with 8 rebounds in the game. He was so good on the defensive end of the floor. It was really tremendous all over the place. Cale Combs, certainly not one of his best offensive games. I thought he was much more in control at times, though. Knocked down a big three-pointer, had a hand in his face, gave a little up fake, came back, fired it up anyway, and knocked it in. But the story of this one, not just what happened on the offensive end, we do have to talk about that defense. And as mentioned, outside of the 9 consecutive, Indiana looked like they didn't have a clue. And when you're painting the picture of what a Ben McCollum squad is going to look like, this is what you're going to see. Tremendous on the defensive end, very connected offensively. They kept the turnovers down. And how about in the second half? Just 2 second-half turnovers after having 6 in the first half. Another tremendous one. They out-rebound once again Indiana by 1. Still, with a team like this, you're going to take that every single time. But this is something overall makes those positive vibes come back in a big-time way and leads us to what still can be out of this Iowa basketball team. It was a great day. A lot went right. A tremendous road victory. That gets done. A quad 1 win. That's incredibly important because we've talked about it in the past. And our everydayers, you certainly know if you listen to our podcast every day, that as good as the resume looks, if you look strictly just at the net rankings, you look at the advanced analytical sites like Bart Torvik, like Ken Pomeroy, those places, they're predictive. And they absolutely love this Iowa basketball team. But when you look at the resume-based metrics that are out there, it doesn't paint nearly the same kind of picture. We're going to take a look at that resume, what this win means. We're going to talk some big picture, and suddenly the schedule is going to ease up as Iowa gets their first quad 1 victory of the year. It was an important one against Indiana. More Hawkeye talk as we continue Locked On Hawkeyes. The College Football Playoff Championship is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action, including on the championship Monday night. Right now, every college football game day, that means Monday, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. I love using that profit boost for something I love. I like taking something, maybe it's a little bit of a long shot, like a same game parlay, adding a bunch of legs in there. Maybe it's Mendoza passing yards, going over that, like the Hoosiers to win the game. Put a bunch of different things together, and then you take that profit boost and you take it a step further. Apply that profit boost, and you can go after even bigger winnings. When you win, FanDuel pays out instantly. Perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. Visit FanDuel.com and get your college football playoff profit boosts, including on Monday for the championship game. Rapid reaction, Trent Condon back with you here. Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Let's get back into what we saw in this one. Iowa with a 74-57 road victory against Indiana. Talked about a lot of different elements in this one. Talked about the great play of Banks and certainly Bennett Stirtz, what they were able to do. And yet, even with that, this was really good. There was that little stretch by Tate Sage in the first half was important. I think Indiana maybe had cut it to 5 at that point. He had a little 5-0 spurt himself, hit a corner 3-pointer, got out, got a layup in transition. I also moved it a little bit more. How about this number? Points off of turnover, 17 for Iowa. That's a big, big number when you're able to do that. And Iowa puts up 1.29 points per possession. That is tremendous, playing at that kind of level. So as we go through, and even with all that, we see a game where still Cooper Koch had a couple looks at 3, had 3 of them, in fact, couldn't knock them in. And he's close. He really is. But overall, we know that Cooper Koch can knock down shots. All right, can be better there. Cam Mayenwa, he was doing his thing inside. Really liked the performance out of him. Alvaro Fulgaris, we're still waiting for the light bulb to come on. You go through in this squad, and it feels like they haven't hit their apex, right? That they haven't peaked, that there's still more that can be done with this squad, more that can be happening where they're going to finish things off in the second half. How about these numbers? Iowa goes 14 of 14 at the free throw line. Mentioned the 2 turnovers in the game in the second half. And though they didn't shoot it very well, just 2 of 9 from the 3-point line, they dominate that second half of action as they go out there and warrant away with the victory. This was a fun one. And this is the one that we've been waiting for because, as I mentioned after the last couple of games, the frustrations of a losing streak absolutely are there. But you still saw the basic tenets that made you believe, yeah, this team could get there. Yes, this team absolutely can take a step further, and there's more there. Looking right now, just been updated. I was waiting for this a moment ago, and it is now up. Iowa, after the Indiana win, is up to 18th in the country at Ken Pomeroy. This victory absolutely is going to help in terms of their metrics and when we go a step further, we talk about those numbers from what the NCAA selection committee is going to look at. I know people know that the net is the sorting tool, but that's what it is. The NCAA committee does not come together and they just, all right, we're going to look at this metric. We're going to go by net and just stack the teams up that way. That's not the way that it happens. That's not the way that they take a look at the resume. They actually look inside of the numbers and what you have. And now Iowa, with the victory here against Indiana, their first quad one win of the year. Iowa's 1-4 against quad one, but you look at the losses. Purdue, Iowa State, Michigan State, Illinois, certainly not ugly by any means. The Minnesota game currently is a quad 2 loss, but they do have quad wins against Ole Miss and against UCLA, that home win as UCLA sits at 44. So that's their resume. Now you got this one. Not only is it a quad 1 victory, I think maybe even more importantly, getting a quad 1 victory is important, and I think you need a couple more of them. However, getting also a road quad 1 victory, that's going to go a really long way. And as long as Indiana stays in the top 75, they're 36 right now in the net rankings. Very, very surprised if Indiana is going to fall out of that. That is going to stay throughout the course of the season. So Iowa in front of them now. This is what is on tap next for the Hawkeyes as they finally end this 3-game losing streak. We talked about it. Get through this 4-game stretch. Get through it. They got to win at minimum. That was probably the baseline that we were hoping for, and they got that against Indiana here after the road games against Minnesota, the home game against Illinois, and then these 2 road games with Purdue and Indiana. Up next, Tuesday at home against Rutgers. They're off. Iowa favored by 19. After that, you get USC. USC is probably towards the bottom of that middle group, but they did something that Iowa wasn't able to do. They went on the road and beat Minnesota. So this is a team that is okay. Not in the upper echelon by any means, not an elite team, anything like that, but has some nice wins. Mentioned that road win against Minnesota. They beat Seton Hall, good team earlier this year. They beat Arizona State, who's decent. Boise State, year after year, a solid team. So this is an okay USC team. Should be a good matchup coming up for the Hawkeyes in that one after the Rutgers game. But this is also the time, this is the break time for Iowa. After what they went through, 3 road games out of 4, you get Rutgers at home, and then you got a time. Relax, recuperate, get everybody right, and you're ready to go for this closing stretch. Because after USC, you take a long road trip out there to the West Coast, Oregon and Washington. That'll be a Sunday, Wednesday in the beginning of February that they have. But both of those winnable road games for them. Back home for Northwestern. You go to Maryland, who's terrible this year. And then it ratchets it up again as you take on Purdue starting on Valentine's Day, February 14th. You get Nebraska. Yes, the Huskers, undefeated. You got them coming in after that, and I will face them 2 times here in that closing stretch. After that Nebraska game, it's on the road to Madison, taking on Wisconsin, another team in the same kind of realm as Iowa, even though they have a great road victory themselves with that win last week against Michigan. Ohio State at home, another winnable one. Penn State on the road, another winnable one. And then your final 2, Michigan at home and at Nebraska. Ken Pomeroy has his team projected to finish 12-8 in the Big Ten. If that plays out, we're having some bigger conversations. And that's the thing about this team that's been fun. I get it. Losing streaks suck. It's not fun at all. It's not enjoyable when you're going through things and the what-if game and how close they were against Purdue and a couple plays here and there. And the same thing against Minnesota and even Illinois, the way they battled back time in and time out. Still, all that being said, it's in front of them. And real opportunities now await this squad. We continue Locked On Hawkeyes. Let's take a peek over at the women's side. They continue their undefeated run in the Big Ten. Will continue tomorrow against Michigan State. We'll talk about that next. A little Iowa women's basketball talk as we continue. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. As somebody self-employed, ooh, this sounds good. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver for everyone in their busy lives. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Trent Condon back with you one final time here as we wrap up a rapid reaction podcast for Iowa after they get the win against Indiana on the road, an absolute huge one for them. Let's jump over to women's basketball. And speaking of women's basketball, 6-0 in the Big Ten, 15-2 overall. Their net ranking currently sits at 14. How about this? Their RPI is 5. This is one of the years they actually wish they're still using the RPI. Their strength of schedule is 8th in the country. And this schedule is going to get much more difficult. And this is the time now we're going to learn a lot about this Iowa team. A very workmanlike, solid victory against a good Oregon team. Michigan State comes to town a tick better. Michigan State 17-1. They're ranked 15th. They're ranked 8th in the net. Currently are the Spartans, as we'll see them tomorrow at Carver Hawkeye Arena. How about this? A night game on a Sunday night in that one. Then after that, they go to Maryland. I think we all know the job that Brenda Freese does year in and year out with that Maryland program. Here comes Ohio State then a week from Sunday as the Buckeyes will come to town, another top 25 team. The only team not ranked during this stretch is USC. We know still an incredibly talented team, even minus Juju Watkins. And then it wraps up Sunday, February 1st as they go to UCLA to take on the Bruins and Lauren Betts. That is a stretch. 4 out of 5 games against ranked teams. The other one against USC, who's ranked 29th in the net. 3 of them on the road. We will see. If Iowa gets a winning record during this stretch, I think we should be clicking our heels and talking about this team solidly in position to be hosting in the first couple of rounds and maybe do a little bit more than that come NCAA tournament time. Thanks for being with us. Next week, we got a lot going on here. Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm going to be away, but I've already put together a bunch of shows for you. We're going to break down my participated depth chart for both the offense and the defense. What I anticipate it's going to look like is what I tried to say on that front. We will have those for you a couple of different days. Break down the offense, break down the defense. Plus, in the middle of the week, Todd Brommelkamp. Had an opportunity to talk with Todd. We talked some football with Todd, but also another area that we went to is what it's like to be on the Iowa beat. Though I've covered the Hawkeyes for over 20 years, I do it into a microphone. I do it giving opinion, giving thoughts. I don't do it writing stories, being at every press conference, though I've been to plenty of them, not on a day in, day out basis like Todd Brommelkamp has. So we're going to get into that. Some stories from the road as well. That's coming up on Wednesday here, Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us as always. And we had a ton of content this week. In fact, I think this is our 8th podcast of the week. So if you missed anything, make sure you go back. We're working ahead a little bit here as we get ready for vacation, but we got a lot of content still coming your way here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Locked On Network, #1 for sports podcast, and not just Locked On Hawkeyes. We got you covered for your favorite team. Baseball, getting ready for spring training. Doesn't matter if it's the Cubs, the Twins, the Brewers. You could be a Marlins fan. We got you covered with every Major League Baseball team, every NFL team. Maybe you're a Bears fan like myself. You can jump aboard there, and they do a great job. Thanks for being with us here on Locked On Hawkeyes. That will do it for today. We will talk to you again on Monday. Until then, as always, go Hawks.